Hello, everyone. Ooh, it's that time again. It's that time again. We get to talk a leak list because we got even more upcoming legacy figures for the 2023 lineup. I'm pretty sure at this point we might know every toy coming out in Legacy 2023 aside from like Leader, Commander, Titan. I think most everything has been leaked at this point, which gives us a lot to speculate on and a lot to talk about. So let's not waste any time. Let's actually talk about it. We're going to go from the bottom of the list, the smallest, up to the largest ones that we have found out about. And the first one that we have on the list is a core Nemesis Prime. We don't really have to speculate on this one too much. It's going to be the Kingdom Optimus mold redone in black and red. Not a big shock there. At least this one is actually called Nemesis Prime when it looks like Nemesis Prime. You know, they didn't call this one Scourge or anything. Yes, I'm still bitter over that. Let's move on to more interesting ones. Grimlock. So, we've been getting some listings for core class Dinobots. I believe Sludge was the first one we saw. And guess what? This isn't even the only one on the list. There's only two size classes of Dinobot that interest me anymore. It's the leader scale in Studio Series, so they can tower over the rest of my Autobots on the shelves as they're meant to. And it is a core class set, because there's always been an appeal to me to have just like a tiny set of Dinobots I can have on my desk and just goof with as I will. I remember one of the first third-party toy sets that people went nuts for were world's smallest takes on the Dinobots. And it was a set I saw in person more than once, almost bit the bullet every single time. I don't need to spend that kind of crazy amount of money on tiny little Dinobots, but core class, I can pick the whole team up for roughly $50. I could do that. I could do that. That would be fun. Um, Dinobots traditionally don't have very terribly complex transformations. I can't imagine them being like Studio. They're of course they're not going to match Studio Series Leader class. I imagine they'll do a couple of tricks, but for the most part, I expect them to be pretty similar to how they transformed in G1. At that small scale, I'm not really expecting like miracles or anything, but it should still end up being a fun little set once they're all complete. So the next one on the list that was like really cool to find was Bomb Burst. And Bomb Burst is actually marked as a package refresh, and it is mentioned in the listing that it is actually a refresh of the core class Energy Monster. Remember the Energy Monster listings that we saw? Apparently, those were placeholders for pretenders. So I'm assuming Skullgrin was actually the deluxe Energon monster we saw, and now we know that Bomb Burst is the one for Legacy Year 1, which means we're going to get a Bomb Burst this year, which is super cool. Now, it's weird how they've been doing it. They've been trying to parse it so that it looks like the shell in robot mode, but there is enough of the inner vehicle in the intermixed aesthetic to actually make it in some sort of version of the Pretenders, the inner robot's natural vehicle mode. Um, we saw that with Iguanus, who still turned into a motorcycle, of course, and now we saw it with Skullgrin, and I'm still not really big on that Skullgrin and what it is doing. I feel like it is an uninspired attempt to create a modern Pretender. I could think of better ways to do it. Um, at the core class, I would not be surprised if this just ends up being a bat. It would. It seems pretty simple because his head is going to be a bat. Um, but I can't really imagine him being well. It's that or some kind of like bat-esque jet. I mean, it's gonna look like a bat either way. Um, I'm curious. I'm curious how they handle it because the core classic Iguanus actually hit me a lot better than the Skullgrin did. So that's what I'm going with right now. The core class has it figured out. All right, so moving on, we got another Dinobot at the core class. Swoop this time. Swoop, my favorite Dinobot. Glad to see he is not left out on this. Now, Hasbro is still trying to complete teams. So if we get one Dinobot, we're going to get them all. So no big shock there. My only fear with Swoop is going to be just like joint tolerances and longevity, because like things like the wings are going to be like really thin. That's about my only concern. Other than that, should be pretty good. The next one on the list is another package refresh, and this one is just Starscream. And this one only really has my attention because I don't think I've heard of Thundercracker being made from that mold yet. We've already got Skywarp for Legacy Year 1. I have not heard of a Thundercracker in the listings. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. There's a lot of listings and a lot of rumors these days. Hard to remember all of them. But, yeah, I'm still kind of waiting on that Thundercracker. Who knows? Maybe this Starscream will actually come with the black guns for Skywarp, and everyone can stop complaining about Skywarp's lack of those guns. I don't like it either, but like I'm also just like it's core class. Who cares? I know people care. I know people care. Yeah, it's just a package refresh. The next one's more interesting. Scar. Scar is a really super weird random name to come up in this listing because it's barely a character. Scar is the power master for Double Dealer that turns him into his Decepticon mode. And that strikes me as strange. It strikes me as very strange that Scar would get a promotion to a full-fledged figure. Now, keep in mind, the Bomb Burst is a package refresh, which means it's coming out in Legacy Year 1. Legacy Year 2, Legacy Evolution, if that is what we are assuming it's going to be called, is going to be Scar's debut, meaning it's most likely going to be how they get a reuse out of the Bomb Burst mold, because they're both bats. Now, I would have preferred a Rat Bat. It's been a long time since we had like a standalone Rat Bat toy, you know, like the Senator Rat Bat style. That would have been cool. I could imagine them doing that anyway. You know, Generation Selects exist for a reason. But it's a weird choice. It's an interesting choice, if anything. Wasn't even that long ago Scar got a figure. He's one of the Micromaster cassettes they did. So Scar's had a new toy. And apparently he's getting it. Apparently he's broken off from Double Dealer. He's going to make it on his own. This is kind of why I think Bomb Burst is going to be closer to a bat than a jet, because that would make Scar make a lot more sense. I'm super curious on that one. It's a super bizarre choice, but it could be something cool. Moving on from that, one more Dinobot on the list. We have Snarl, which, hey, good on Snarl. He didn't get left out. But it's actually weird because the first listing we got was Sludge, and now we have Grimlock, Swoop, and Snarl all slated for Legacy Year 2. And I believe even Sludge was a year 2 Legacy listing, which now means where is... Okay, how do we want to say his name? Slug? Slug with an A? I don't know. But yeah, it'd be Slug if it came out. We have no Slug. We have no Slug and no idea when it's actually coming. It's kind of funny that we get 4 the Dinobots list, and apparently like Slug is coming last. That's weird. That's weird. Well, at the very least, Snarl didn't get the short end of the stick this time. So looks like Snarl's actually not going to be like the last one out of the gates this time. So good on him. Let's move up a scale, and we'll talk about some more interesting names. Speaking of completing teams, we finally have a listing for Shrapnel. So we're going to get all the Insecticons at the deluxe scale. Really looking forward to that. Should fix a lot of the problems from the last set of Insecticons we got. The aesthetic should all be universal in these. If you had the Legends class Insecticons that came out throughout various toy lines, you may not have been happy with them. I wasn't happy with them. Kickback had a lot of weirdness to him because they tried to go a little bit too far beyond his G1 design, in my opinion. So he ended up with a ton of kibble. And all of them had inconsistent yellow and purple colors, so they didn't quite look right together. This has me hopeful that, like, if they're trying to properly complete the teams, then Bombshell and Shrapnel are going to look really, really nice. Really no reason they shouldn't. So, more Insecticons. More figures getting at least a deluxe treatment these days. Good on them. Good on them. Here was an interesting one. Prowl's name came up in the list, and that's not shocking. It's Prowl. It's a mainstream character. It's an 84 Autobot. It's one of the names and characters I like to use the most often. What makes it weird is Earthrise already gave us what could be considered a definitive Prowl. Okay, admittedly, had a lot of trouble getting it because it was one of those stupid exclusives, but the Prowl itself, if you got a hold of it, is actually just a really solid Prowl. And outside of like removing the clear plastic, I can't really think of anything that would make me like the toy better. You know, at least as far as being a representation of G1 Prowl. It pretty much does everything it's supposed to do, and it does it right. Which makes me wonder, is this G1 Prowl? Look at this list so far. Look at this list so far, and we're going into Legacy here. You notice anything weird about the list? It's all G1. Everything on this list so far is Generation 1. Does strike me as just a little bit odd. It should strike you as a little bit odd that we've gone this long into this new listing, and it's all seemingly based in G1. So, what if this isn't? We do know we're getting animated. What if? What if? What if this is a curveball? What if we actually do see a legacy animated Prowl? If you're going to do animated legacy figures, they already mentioned that they're going to be G1ified, but they are trying to make sure that the mix is a little bit better. They know the response to the aesthetic change to the Prime characters was not well received by fans, so they're going to try and get future ones a little bit closer, maybe a little bit more of a better mix. This is where I kind of feel like that they are talking about. At this point, that Prowl would still be in a developmental stage where they could take that feedback and fix the figure, adjust the detailing, etc. And yeah, there is that fear in me that this is just going to be an RC retool. That would be the easy way out here. But honestly, if we're getting another Prowl this soon, I don't think it's the G1. I honestly do think it's going to be the animated. It's just weird that we've gone that for a line that's supposed to be like hopping around in all these different generations, this is the first name on this new list that actually comes up that could potentially be from somewhere else. So fingers crossed we get something a little bit weird. Oh, speaking of crossing, we have Crosscut next. They're waiting a while to put out that retool, aren't they? Which is fine. Which is fine. I'm not opposed to that mold. It's okay. It's fine. I do like it better in the silver and the red. So I don't know if Crosscut's going to be on my list or not, but nice to actually know it's coming out. It's not going to be some like selects release. So yeah, repaint on the way. How about another interesting listing? A Deluxe Junkion 2. And it's strange, it's interesting for reasons. Number one, it's the second Junkion in the listing. So we've got a Junkion Deluxe previous to this. And the fact that it's a Deluxe. So you have at least 2 Deluxe Junkions on the way, which is a weird thing, you know? And I'm trying to figure out what that's going to be. Is it going to be like one remolded from the other, the way that Wreck-Gar and Junkyard were? I don't know. That's weird, isn't it? A lot of speculation behind this one. Genuinely no clue behind it. I got nothing here. I got nothing here. I don't know what else you do with Junkions at like a smaller price point like that. All I can do is sit and speculate. I'm still in the ballpark of like I kind of want them to have like gimmicks like Cup where you can like pull their arms and legs off so like you can like repair them or like swap parts around and make up your own weird Junkion. Like that would be cool. That'd help for troop building. All right, let's move up one more. We also have some Voyagers we can talk about. Nemesis Leo Prime. At least we're assuming it's Nemesis Leo Prime because the listing is Voyager Nemesis Leo. It could just be a dude named Leo. I don't know. But odds are Leo Prime. We do know that there is a proper Leo Prime coming up somewhere in Generations, so a Nemesis version is not shocking. Now, unlike Primal, like when they did Nemesis Primal, I felt like it was a missed opportunity to go really different. I have the toy now. Thank you very much. You know who you are. Um, I have the toy now. In person, I do like it a lot better than when I saw it in photos, but I still feel like coming up with a Nemesis concept of a character who's never had a Nemesis before could have gone a little bit different and been a little bit more visually interesting. We already know what a Nemesis Leo Prime is going to be. It's basically going to be the dark amber version that we saw in Masterpiece. So that, I mean, it's a cool looking color scheme, and it's going to be nice to get like black gunmetal and that metallic blue without having to spend ridiculous money. That would be fun. That would be nice. Yeah. No real shock there. I still feel like Leo Prime's mold in general is like an opportune time to do like something super weird. Like I think during my BotCon video I mentioned that mold is perfect for like a Rodimus Primal. Like that's literally what I would do with that mold. That's a very BotCon thing. It's an old school BotCon thing to think of. Like, let's think of a fan concept that's never been real and we'll make it real. And that's the one I kind of want to see. Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. We have another packaging refresh, and this one's going to make a lot of people happy because it's Ramjet. Now, is specifically marked as a PR, packaging refresh, which means it's going to be a previously released figure in a new box. So, all points, all sides point to this being that Amazon Conehead being re-released as part of Legacy Wave 2, year 2 rather, and great. That is absolutely necessary at this point. Very, very needed. Really happy to see it. I know a lot of people who had trouble getting that, and the aftermarket is insane. So Hasbro would be kind of foolish not to do something to get it to more people's hands. I'm assuming that this is going to mean that somewhere in Legacy Year 2 or 3, there's also going to be a Dirge. So for anyone who missed out on that pack entirely, you've got another option. I know Thrust is way up there in price too, but considering he was more widely available, I don't really see that one getting a reissue. There's a lot of figures like that end up like crazy expensive on the aftermarket just due to demand from people who missed out or weren't aware of the figure when it was new. That happens a lot of times, and I don't expect them to see every single one get reissued, so you might be on your own on Thrust. But for at least the two most problematic ones, Hasbro's fixing it. Good on them. Guess what? There's another Junkion listed. Another Voyager Junkion. I'm not really even going to do much speculation on this. More Junkions is good because there's a ton of Junkion designs that have never seen the light of a toy shelf. So good that we seem to be getting more. And it's obviously it's probably just going to be a Rekgar retool. Again, not really expecting much special out of that one. Maybe the head and chest sculpt and a color scheme that we hadn't seen made real before. So keep an eye out. We got one last one, and this is probably the most interesting one, which is appropriate that it's last in the list. A Bludgeon is listed. Bludgeon is always tricky. You're trying to parse this orange samurai with this green tank inside. I'm kind of in the mindset that like I haven't enjoyed any modern Bludgeon figure, if I'm going to be like brutally honest, because I feel like the maroon and orange and green just do not work together. Like the yellow, orange, and maroon I can kind of get behind. It's that thrust of green in there that just does not work for me. And it's I don't know, it just makes an ugly figure when you're trying to merge all these colors together and trying to make this samurai armor out of a big bulky tank, which doesn't really lend itself to like curved layered armor. My hope here would be that they kind of forego the green altogether, make him a tank, maybe give the tank a few green details, but for the most part, focus on making the robot mode look like Bludgeon, because we haven't had that before. You know, We had one in Revenge of the Fallen. I hated how thrown around the aesthetics on that toy were. Cyberverse had, is it Cyberverse or no, it was RID 2015. It had a Bludgeon toy out of a Megatron. That was okay, but it's still, they're still using, like, basically, like, a lot of the Bludgeons since Revenge of the Fallen have used the Revenge of the Fallen as kind of the model, because it's like trying to merge that green tank with the orange samurai, and I still think it doesn't work. You know, you either do Bludgeon as a proper pretender, and in my head I can think of like ways that it is actually indeed possible, or you forget about the green tank nobody cares about. We care about the skull-headed samurai. That's the cool part about Bludgeon, right? If you make him turn into a tank, make him turn into an orange tank, call it a day, but leave that inner robot out. It's just not going to work. So those are my takeaways, and those are my thoughts on this new leak list. We got a ton of really, really cool stuff. More teams being completed, more groups being bulked out, and a lot of figures I never expected to really see for quite a while. But yeah, I think everyone at this point is basically just going to be sitting on bated breath, waiting for someone to get their hands on Bludgeon first, because that's the one everyone's curious about, right? So, in the comments below, let me know what you think. Maybe you are not anticipating Bludgeon as much as someone else on this list. That's valid too. Let me know why. You know, and before you head to the comments, remember to hit like, and if you haven't done it, hit subscribe. It does help the channel out a lot. And I thank you guys for your support, and I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.